go back and get the students on track because they already knew how to handle, how to operate safely in the lab. So what does that mean? You have to know the sources of the risks. What are the risks? Where do they come from? So safety in the lab. There are biohazards, there are chemicals, even there is electrical or mechanical hazards. There is also fire issue. And then there are radiations because, for example, in our lab, it's tiny, isn't it? But we have chemistry analyzer. When it is running, especially when you're doing something onto it, you cannot look into where the radiation is. But the instrument has radiation because that is what part of it is really how the instrument operates. So we have to know how to keep ourselves safe and keep others safe. With this also, laboratory is expensive. Expensive in a sense, you have to know how to use the resources efficiently, including your time. In one of the areas that you are going to struggle with is to sort out the trashes, because if you put regular trash in Biohazard, Biohazard is very expensive. Think about the area hospitals. They deal with massive biological materials, isn't it? Tissues, blood, and so on. How do you think are they handling? How are they going to dispose that? It is very expensive. Even at our level, tiny college, we produce, quite a lot, and that is expensive. It takes away a chunk of our budget to get rid of that biohazard. So you have to know where to throw what waste, where not to throw. Where you have to know what goes into biohazard, what goes into sharp container, and so on. All right. So, and it is also very important. We can actually talk about this thing. We can give you handbook and do everything. You know what? It is not important until you change your mind, until we change our mind, until we think and believing in the operate on the belief that safety is my personal responsibility. It's very, very difficult. Until that happens, it's very difficult to get this thing under control. So it cannot be overemphasized. Constantly reminded of safety precautions. So when we went back, what happened? We instructed the students and we told them that they have to keep distance when coming into the lab. The labs already, the dean is actually beginning today. Oh, she's the next week. We know already the distance, how many students we can have in the class. So there's such, you will sit at a certain distance. So that one we have labeled so they cannot violate that. But then, you cannot get into the building on your own. The instructor has come down to in front of the building and then walk you into the classroom. In the process, what is happening is you have to keep distance. If you don't keep distance, somebody will say, distance! I have to yell at you, isn't it? So that way, you always, of course, when you get out, we don't know what you do, but it's really, that is because we are adult, you are adult, so that is not an issue. But it is also when you are getting into the class or leaving the class that people forget and start making crowd. So most accidents are preventable. Causes carelessness, lack of proper personal communication, and here safety is personal. It's a matter of individual desire, built-in concern. So if you think alkali, just let me tell you one thing. Normally, I call hospital. It's a place. Store is where you buy food, isn't it? Hospital is actually where you get sick. It's not because you get sick and go, but usually you become even. It's a place to be exposed to so many bad things because of the environment. And because the people go there, what is their immunity? The immunity is compromised. But also you are actually pulling all the disease into one place. So it's very important that you assume that even the air, the place, anything that you touch, you think that maybe it's infectious. If you think that way, you will be alert. You will protect yourself. You will protect your loved ones. So we have safety manual. So think about in the lab, everywhere you go, they have to have safety manual. It should be readily available. That safety manual should cover all practices and the precautions. They should have also emergency, plan of evacuation. For example, we have exit plan with label. Plan of evacuation of the lab in the event of an emergency. Every single day when you go in and when you get out, yes, every single day, the whole year. I will finish my shoes walking down the stairs, but that's okay. I'm joking. Yeah, we have to do every time actually. So, rules for laboratory. So we have a exposure control plan written handbook in the lab. So we will adhere to. There are things that we also do at individual level. There are schedules that I'm going to share with you. So on every schedule, when it is your duty, there are things that you have to do. So we will talk about that as well as the schedule. So, for example, we do gram stain in micro. So we are going to use chemicals to do gram stain. So those chemicals, I'm just taking that gram stain as an example, but there are so many things that we do in the lab. We do actually serologic tests for HIV. So we perform testing using HIV, positive control and negative controls and so on. And I'm bringing all this because we are also going to deal with live infectious material. All these, we have to have material safety data sheet. That material safety data sheet is actually and also it has important information about that chemical and safety measures in case exposure happens. All right. So going back to the gram stain, there are chemicals that we use. It includes also iodine, certain things that we don't have to know. I mean, you don't have to know the names right now, but ethanol and so on. So you have to have material the safety data sheet in that lab that states how to handle if exposure to that gram iodine or ethanol or something happens. You have material safety data sheet from the manufacturer how to handle if exposure to that chemical happens. All right. So in addition to that, the OSHA. What is OSHA, by the way? All right, so that will be, I will put that in the question. Anyway, the OSHA mandated occupational safety hazard. Okay, close. Yeah, very good. OSHA mandated as your right to know information. Yes. So that actually the right to know, that means to you have to know to what chemical you may be exposed, and then, as I said, what precaution, what procedures to take if exposure occurs. So this, in addition to the lab safety manual, the OSHA mandate right to know, that's a notebook that is kept in the lab. We have that. So in there you see manufacturers provided material safety data sheet also attached to that. So we have to have those in place. We may not to that standard, but we are required to have all this. Excellent. So, have you ever heard of flesh-eating bacteria? Flesh-eating bacteria. Yes, somebody actually not far away from somebody in Georgia a couple of years ago. She lost her. I don't know if she was amputated. Is it? I don't know if probably both legs, because of flesh-eating bacteria. This flesh-eating bacteria is really, I mean, it's not one bacteria. There are so many type of, so many species that, yes, that is true. There are so many species, bacterial species that could cause, that are flesh-eating, considered flesh-eating. In this, I'm bringing that is that some of these organisms are so common and they're everywhere, and you are also going to handle these organisms. So how can you protect yourself? And also think, you are going to deal with specimen that we bring from hospital. We don't know what infectious disease is in those specimens. So what is the best way? Just, keeping your guard always. Thinking that all these specimens may be infectious. Okay, so infectious material or agents that present a risk or a potential risk to health of humans in the lab, those are biological materials, and there are plenty of them. So we will teach you how to. There are certain procedures that we do in the lab, isn't it? We will show to you, we will demonstrate, we will instruct you, we will guide you. But you know what? If you so let me tell you, I don't use eyeglass, but sometimes I get, how, what are you doing? That is